Hi, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and there's a lot to talk about today. First of all, there's been a report from John Comm that the Washington Commanders management believes that the team is in a better place to pursue an upper echelon quarterback than it was last season. If you remember last season, they swung hard for Matthew Stafford, but were outbidded by the Lions because the Lions were able to include quarterback. They feel like now with the draft capital that we have, maybe some of the players we have as well, maybe like a Taylor Heineke that you can include over a Jared Goff, and overall just cap space as well, that we feel like we have a better chance of getting a quarterback. And then on top of all of that, Russel Wilson is reportedly okay with being traded to DC, and that's the first time we've heard any of the upper quarterbacks happy about potentially going to DC, or at least not upset, because it's been reports that Deshaun Watson wouldn't waive his trade clause to come here, even though that was before Miami has pretty much decided that they're going to stick with Tua and they're out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. So maybe he just preferred Miami. Who knows? Now that Miami is not one of the options for him anymore, maybe he'd be more open to going to DC. Maybe he just likes warm weather. I don't know. He's from an hour away from Atlanta, went to Clemson for college, which is South Carolina, then has played in Houston this entire time. Maybe he's afraid of snow. Who knows? Hopefully not, though. Trying to get to Miami, the warmest weather he's ever had. But this is great. Again, Russell Wilson, this is the first time we've heard a quarterback okay or even moderately happy about potentially going to DC. And we're going to talk about why the Washington football team is a great place for a new quarterback, including Aaron Rodgers, whoever. And then also, speaking of quarterbacks, Kyler Murray apparently wants a trade out of Arizona. We have to dive into all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get a notification immediately and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Also, make sure you check out the rest of the channel. All of my videos are organized in playlists. I even have a comedy playlist for all of my funny videos. Be on the lookout for my quarterback series. I will be doing an individual breakdown of each quarterback that the Washington Commanders could end up acquiring this offseason, whether it be guys through trade like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, or Deshaun Watson, or a free agent like Aaron Rodgers or Mitchell Trubisky and one of those guys, or the draft, of course, like Malik Willis and those guys. And for each guy, I mean, it's going to be like really in-depth videos that may run like 15 minutes or longer explaining why we should and shouldn't. I'm going to give you the positives and negatives for each of the quarterbacks. And for the draft guys, what round we may have to go get them at. Do we have to trade up? Can we trade back and still get them? For the trade quarterbacks, how many picks, what picks will we have to give up? Will we have to give up some players as well? And for the trade and free agent quarterbacks, how much of a cap hit will they be? Because Russell Wilson's cap hit is surprisingly low. I'm gonna dive into that in this video as well. But without further ado, let's get it. All right, so first of all, I don't believe I've talked about it in a video yet, but at the end of the season, shortly after the Giants game, when everybody had their press conferences, Ron Rivera did say that they feel like they have the locker room to handle a Deshaun Watson situation. So don't rule them out. Again, it's still very unlikely because who knows if that entire situation is going to get figured out. Is he going to have to pay people off? Is he going to have to settle all of those women? Like, I have no idea. That is such a puzzling situation. I'm not sure if he'll ever play in the NFL again. And then even when he does, how long will he be suspended? Like, say we trade for him today. Say we trade for him literally February 7th. Will he be suspended until 2023? So either way, that's just a really peculiar situation. But if Deshaun Watson is able to get all of that stuff handled and doesn't get exiled from the NFL, then he's best case scenario easily for me. He's younger than Russell Wilson, definitely has better years ahead than Russell Wilson. The only problem is he'll be more expensive. Again, which we'll talk about with Russell Wilson's contract. And then recently, John Comm just reported that the Washington management does believe that it's in a better place to pursue an upper echelon quarterback than it was last season. Again, last season, they tried to get Matthew Stafford. They were willing to offer some pretty high picks, but then the Lions beat them out by basically offering, the same kind of picks, but then they also threw in Jared Goff, who ended up starting for the Lions all season. Didn't play well, but he was a starting quarterback. I feel like Taylor Heineke's better than Jared Goff, so if we wanted to run that same exact trade back, but we included Taylor Heineke, maybe we win the Matthew Stafford sweepstakes. And I'm a Georgia Bulldog fan, so that would have been great for me, even though I prefer a guy with a higher ceiling. But My main point is that they showed initiative to really try and go and get a franchise quarterback. They clearly value it. I felt like they didn't value it enough in the draft because it came out later on, like just a couple of weeks ago, that we actually were really interested in Justin Fields and we were trying to trade up, but the value that teams were asking for in return was just too high to their liking, was just too high for them. So maybe this offseason, if we're not able to get a Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, or any of these guys, if there is a quarterback that they really like, say for example Malik Willis, maybe they would be willing to give up crazy value to get him this time around, because we have now clearly seen that a franchise quarterback is necessary to even be able to compete in the NFL at this point. Jimmy Garoppolo and Ben Roethlisberger were easily the worst quarterbacks in the playoffs by far. Everybody else was clearly a franchise quarterback, and clearly Jimmy G was the main reason, at least 90-something%, why they lost to the Rams. If you switched quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford on the 49ers, Jimmy G on the Rams, the 49ers easily win that game by probably 20. And Ben Roethlisberger was also the main reason that the Steelers couldn't win their first playoff game. I mean, they were one and done. So quarterback matters, y'all. A really good quarterback matters. And it's about time that we go get ours, because our roster is not that bad as people think. Before we dive into Kyler Murray, let's talk about Russell Wilson. Speaking of our roster not being as bad as you think, even if you want to look at it in the lens of could we potentially draft a rookie quarterback and he play early, like a Malik Willis or a Kenny Pickett, who you can argue is more day one ready. Well, we do have a top 5 offensive line when healthy. Terry McLaurin is better than any receiver any of these guys have thrown to in college. And for Russell Wilson, like I said, I prefer Terry McLaurin over DK. Sounded crazy a couple of years ago when DK was putting up crazy numbers, but that's because he had Russell Wilson. If DK Metcalf had the quarterbacks that Terry's had to deal with the past 3 years, and Terry McLaurin had Russell Wilson all of this time, Terry McLaurin's stats would be way better than DK Metcalf, and he would obviously be higher in people's wide receiver rankings. I feel like DK is a very good receiver, but me personally, especially all around, and if we're talking about speed, route running, all of that type of stuff, I'm taking Terry McLaurin over DK Metcalf, me personally. It's not like there's a huge gap or nothing, like obviously, but if I had Russell Wilson as my quarterback, our offensive line, if I had to pick between Terry and DK, I'm taking Terry. And I was one of those people that was telling people don't sleep on DK coming out of the draft. A lot of people kept doubting him and being like, nah, he's just raw talent. He's just a physical freak. He'll never be able to actually succeed at the NFL level. I kept trying to tell people, hey, don't sleep on him. He's going to be really good. And then what also gives the edge to Terry McLaurin is just his attitude and personality. DK Metcalf, I don't like his personality. It's a bunch of different situations that have gone down. Too many for me to dive into for real. Terry McLaurin is like the perfect personality, literally the face of your franchise. As humble as it gets, but extremely competitive, and puts up with all of the BS that he's been dealing with this organization. Not even just quarterback, but off the field wise. Dan Snyder, all of that type of stuff. And speaking of Dan Snyder, the Deshaun Watson situation is interesting because some people view it as, you can't have two guys that are being accused of sexual assault in the same place. But honestly, if there is an NFL team that could help Deshaun Watson in this situation, it's Dan Snyder in the Washington situation, because Dan Snyder, I don't know how he's escaping all of these allegations. I have no idea. I don't know who he's holding for ransom for him to still be able to own this team. But moving on, back to my argument. Top 5 offensive line. Terry McLaurin is a great receiver, definitely one of the best receivers Russell Wilson will have thrown to in his career, and easily by far the best receiver that Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, or any of these guys that are coming out of this draft class, as far as quarterbacks go, have thrown to in their careers. We have 2 potential dual threat tight ends. If Logan Thomas is able to stay healthy, Logan Thomas and John Bates, you can run a lot of 12 personnel. And then even like a JD McKissick and Antonio Gibson, those just extra weapons around. This is a great situation for a quarterback to come into. So for somebody like Russell Wilson, he has to look at this like this is way better than anything I've had with the Seahawks, because even when he won that Super Bowl with the Seahawks, it was really the defense carrying. He's never had a top 5 offensive line, not even close, not even a top half of the league offensive line. Again, I would argue when healthy, we have better weapons. Tyler Lockett is easily better than any second receiver that we have on our team, but if you're talking about everybody combined with Antonio Gibson and JD McKissick, Logan Thomas, and John Bates, I would take our skill position players in totality over what the Seahawks have. So Russell Wilson, like, just being a smart QB that he is, he has to look at our team and realize that. You just have to see that. And the source comes from Kevin Sheehan of the Team 980. He basically said that Wilson isn't against the idea of becoming a commander. Kevin Sheehan said, quote, I did talk to a lot of people in Vegas, and the only thing that I will tell you is something that I feel confident in based on the sources, and that is that Russell Wilson is not against being traded to Washington, unquote. And remember, Russell Wilson is 33 with 2 years remaining on his contract. And honestly, the Seahawks just need to start it over, just blow it up, reset, rebuild, and take all of the draft capital that a team like us would give them and just figure it out from there. Maybe Desmond Ridder would be a nice fresh start for them. And then Boss Track came out and pointed out the fact that Russell Wilson, when traded, the way his contract is set up, they're actually gonna have to eat a lot of his salary. They're gonna eat like 20-something million worth of dollars in dead cap this upcoming season, and the team that he goes to, hopefully us, would actually end up only having to pay him a little over $50 million over the next 2 years. So you can split that up with 25 this year and like 26, 27 the following year. So he's not even that big of a cap hit. To put it in perspective, with those cap hits for the team that he goes to, again, hopefully us, he would be getting paid just about the same amount as Derek Carr, less than Matthew Stafford, less than Jimmy Garoppolo, less than Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins, and Jared Goff. Jared Goff is out here making almost $34 million per year in his contract. Kirk Cousins making 33, Carson Wentz 32, Matt Ryan 30, Ryan Tannehill 29, Jimmy G 27.5. Again, Russell Wilson will probably cost us like 25, maybe like 26, 27 on average. So less than all of those guys I just named. That's a huge steal. The only problem is, what would you have to give up as far as trade value, picks, players, all of that type of stuff, and that's when you really dive into it. If Taylor Heineke helps in the trade at all, if he's able to eliminate maybe like a first round pick or a second round pick, whatever value he adds to it, I'm willing to do that. We're talking about Super Bowl contenders here. But at the same time, my boy over there, Tim Sports, make sure y'all go check him out, man. Really smart guy. He brings up a great point, and this is something I've also been screaming for the past couple of years. Somebody pointed it out on Twitter the first time that Pat Mahomes didn't make it to the Super Bowl after he won the Super Bowl, that it's still historically proven that once a quarterback takes up a certain percentage of your cap space, nobody's ever won a Super Bowl that way, no matter how great their quarterbacks have been. That's why Tom Brady, taking those pay cuts, has been able to win Super Bowls as long as he's had, as many times as he's had. He took a pay cut even to go to Tampa Bay. Once you take up a certain percentage of your cap space, it's hard to pay other players around you. Quarterback is the most important position in football, really all of sports, to be completely honest, but they can't do it themselves. That's not the only thing that matters. It's just the most important. So once you don't have the money to get a higher caliber of talent around the quarterback, defense and offense, it's really hard to get back. If Pat Mahomes wasn't making so much money, maybe the Chiefs could have paid for more high impact defensive players, and maybe they're the ones playing in the Super Bowl right now. See, but it's a lot of factors that goes into it, but still, it's historically proven 100% true that once you reach a certain threshold of your quarterback making a certain percentage of your cap space, none of them have ever won a Super Bowl. They won their Super Bowls before they were taking up that percentage. I forgot the exact percentage. It was like 16%, somewhere around there. So that's the only thing. But at the same time, $25 million per year is still a steal for him. And with the cap space going up, that may not actually reach that threshold. So we may be straight there. Either way, I really like the idea of having Russell Wilson here. And then even with Russell Wilson as your starting franchise quarterback, and he's a little bit younger than Aaron Rodgers, so he probably has more years to him than Aaron Rodgers does, I would expect Russell Wilson to at least have like 5 more years in him. And within that time, you can start to groom a guy behind him. You can take a guy later in the draft, and that can be your guy that you're grooming for like 2028 and beyond. We'll see. But either way, you get Russell Wilson, we're instantly Super Bowl contenders, because without injuries and COVID, we should have won 10 games this year easily. I mean, we were down to 5th stringers at multiple positions. Not just one, not just two, not just three, multiple positions. We were out there starting 5th stringers, 3rd stringers at the very best. And we lost some of those games fairly close. So we should have at least won 10 games, should have been in the playoffs over the Eagles. And that was with Taylor Heineke and all of those injuries. So you get Russell Wilson and everybody stays healthy, we're Super Bowl contenders, point blank period, especially if we continue to draft well and bring in really clutch, low cost and free agent signings like how we did with Charles Leno. He just got the big time extension. JD McKissick, Logan Thomas, who also got an extension, Cornelius Lucas, Wes Schweitzer. If we continue to do that and find guys like John Bates and Samuel Cosmi in the draft as late as we got them, we can definitely build a dynasty here with a quarterback like Russell Wilson. Speaking of a quarterback like Russell Wilson, somebody that you could definitely argue is better than him is Kyler Murray. And today, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened in Vegas. I don't know what happened at the Pro Bowl, but Kyler Murray just unfollowed the Cardinals on Instagram and deleted all Cardinals related posts from his Instagram. And many believe that he is frustrated with the organization and may even possibly seek a trade. That is crazy. Now, I don't know what you have to give up for Kyler Murray. I mean, you're going to have to give up up all kinds of picks. First of all, because he's just a great quarterback, but secondly, he's extremely cheap right now. He is still on his rookie contract, and he was a first overall pick. But remember, since Sam Bradford, even if you're a first overall pick, no draft pick is out here making crazy money. He's out here making less than $9 million per year on average from his rookie contract. And he's still currently on that rookie contract. You're definitely gonna have to pay him top-notch money soon, but that will not be 2022. And to have arguably a top 7 quarterback making not even top 20 money is crazy. And that's why I feel like we would even have to trade more to get him just because of how little he costs. Like if he was already making big money, we would probably have to give up less value in the trade. But since he's literally, like I said, top 7 quarterback, not even making top 20 money, we're probably gonna have to throw in more trade value just because of that alone. So I'm definitely seeing like multiple first round picks, some players and all kinds of stuff. And you're definitely gonna have to throw in Taylor Heineke because they're gonna at least need somebody to go out there to play for them on Sundays. And maybe they will find a way to turn some of those first round picks to trade up in the draft to get a new guy. Maybe they're the ones that take Malik Willis. Maybe we get Kyler Murray, they end up with Malik Willis. I could definitely see something like that playing out. I think that's crazy. I mean, again, just like Russell Wilson, this will be the best offensive line he's ever played behind. You could give them the edge on weapons, even though D-Hop was injured so much last year. There's a debate there, even though I will definitely give them the edge on weapons. Then again, we have the tight ends. And J.D. McKissic, I think, is really underrated as an option. And not even just because of his receiving ability, his running ability, but because he's one of the best pass blocking backs in the NFL. I think that's something like really underrated that I'm pretty sure quarterbacks notice, but maybe fans don't. So I definitely think overall this offense will be a better situation around Kyler Murray than what he currently has even in Arizona. You could definitely say Cliff Kingsbury over Scott Turner, but who knows, when Scott Turner gets a franchise quarterback, maybe he'll surprise all of us. But yeah, man, that Kyler Murray situation is really interesting. Like, where did that come from? I didn't hear anything about how he was a little uneasy with the Arizona Cardinals situation. Maybe, I mean, this is the second year in a row where they had all of this hype, and then the second half of the season, they just collapsed. And this year, it was even worse, because they went from arguably the best team in the NFL, the only undefeated team in the NFL, through like the first 3/4 of the season, and then they just went on a crazy losing streak, collapsed, and it just got really bad for them. And then now you see where they've ended up. I mean, if Kyler Murray's at the Pro Bowl, that lets you know that they're not playing for a Super Bowl. And this team were supposed to be Super Bowl favorites after midway through the season. So of course they had a very disappointing ending to their season, and that could leave a bad taste in his mouth. I could definitely see that, where just this, like, they feel like there's an omen they can't get over. There's just this obstacle. It always messes everything up no matter how well it's going. Maybe he's superstitious. Maybe he's like, man, no matter what, even if we look like the best team in the NFL through the first 12 weeks, it's all gonna come down collapsing no matter what I do. So it's just best for me to move on, because this team just has some type of bad luck that I can't even fix. Who knows? But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please like this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. And like I already said in the intro, be on the lookout for all of the upcoming content and live streams as well. And as always, man, I appreciate all of my support. Shouts out to everybody that donated to the Senior Bowl stream, and I really appreciate y'all for real. Shouts out to everybody that left a like on the way out and contributed to the stream and was in there talking and debating about the quarterbacks. Had a lot of fun. And of course, I especially appreciate all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose names you see scrolling on the screen right now. Man, I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.